So today, I want to start my lecture from the very important building. And this is the Yogi Stadium. As the age of 10, I was born 1954. At the age of 10, my father brought me to that beautiful building. Before visiting this building, my dream was to be veterinarian because I love cats very much. But after that day, I decided to become architect. It's a very memorial day, and it's still the building as admires me very much. And as the year 1964, the Japan is a kind of the economic expansion, and people want to build bigger building, higher building by concrete. Before 1960s, the Tokyo was a very low silhouette town. Most of the buildings were 1-2-story wooden buildings, but for Olympic, people want to build the big concrete structures, including bullet train and the freeway on the city, and the bigger hotels. And on that period, Kenzo Tange created this beautiful monument, and his idea is to have the new structure system for the building. That he designed 2 concrete columns, and the roof of the building was suspended from the concrete columns. And the structure engineer is Professor Tsuboi. He is Kenzo Tange's friend, also teaching at Tokyo University, and 2 professors of Tokyo University worked together to complete this beautiful building. And also, I like the ideas to merge the building into the landscape. It is an outstanding monument, but at the same time, the Kenzo Tange tried to integrate this building into the landscape. And also, the interior is really amazing. Structurally, the roof was suspended from the 2 columns, but at the same time, he designed the beautiful top light, and the natural light from the top light was washing the aluminum panels on the ceiling, and the reflect, and the pool looks like heaven. And I heard one American swimmer, his comment on the pool is really like heaven. And now and also I still remember as a gold medalist, the Donald Shalander, from Portland, Oregon. He won 5 gold medals in this swimming pool. I did a project in Portland, Oregon, the Japanese gardens, and my friend is a friend of Don Sholander's, and we are planning to meet together next year. And his numbers, his car has numbers 1964-5. That means 5 gold medals on 1964. He was a hero of mine at that time. He was at the age of 18, but his level of swimming is very different from other swimmers. And anyways, after that, my dream was to become architect, but that my journey was not easy. And this is the stadium we are designing. It's almost done. As official, the completion of the building is the end of this month. And but now the people are just checking the details and also preparing the furniture for the space. And a basic idea for this stadium is to create harmony with the forest. 1964 Olympic, to create monument, outstanding monument was a goal of Kenzo Tange's design. But 2020, I think, what should be the goal of the Olympic of 2020? The harmony, environment should be the goal of the Olympic of 2020. And I tried to use local material as possible as can. And in this case, I did use the wood from 47 prefectures of Japan. And we did use cedar from the forest. And the cedar is most popular wood in Japan. But from 47 prefectures, we can show the diversity of Japan. The south and north, the color are very different. And also, Japan Sea side and Pacific Ocean side, the colors are so different. And people usually think Japan is a small country, one country, but actually, so we have rich diversity. And I want to show that kind of diversity. And also, the people can find which cedar is coming from which prefectures, checking by internet. And also the Southgate, this is Southgate, as we try to use the wood from the devastated area by tsunami and the Kumamoto earthquake. And recently in Japan we have a lot of disasters, and especially up north area, Tohoku area was so damaged, and we are using the wood from up north area for the north gate, and south gate we are using the wood from Kumamoto. Kumamoto was destroyed by earthquake very much. And also we got a hint from this building. This is a Horyuji Temple. It's a 7th century building. It is called the oldest wooden building in the world because as 1,400 years passed after the completion of the building. The secret of this building is the section of the building. The 5-story eaves, 5-story roof protect the wood beneath, and also the wooden pieces are replaceable. It's very different from concrete building because concrete building to replace piece by piece is really difficult, but wooden building, if some parts are damaged, it's easily can replace. It's a very sustainable system, and we learned that system very much, and we applied that system to stadium. It's a 5-story eaves, the wood are protected and also replaceable very easily. And for the ceiling, we also did use the Japanese wood. It's a composite structure of wood and steel, and structurally it is very challenging because it's 60 meters cantilevers, and also we try to create the warm atmosphere by using wood. And for the roof, we are using photovoltaic panels, the transparent type photovoltaic panels. It's a new material. And natural ventilation is most important for this building because we don't want to have air conditioning, And instead, we try to calculate the flow of wind to bring the perfect temperature for the seat. But unluckily, the marathon game, as you know, as IOC decided to move marathon game to Sapporo, and people in Tokyo are so disappointed here to hear that. And the recycled material for every part of the building. And and this is my favorite space. We call it the globe of the sky. It raises 30 meters and 100 feet, and the people can enjoy the view of Tokyo from this level. And also we design the creek. The rainwater is used for this creek, and the circulation was by the photovoltaic panels, electric. This is under construction, and the detail would be like that. The dimension of wood is also very important for us, because we did use the plank. The width is the 3 feet, and 4 inches is the 10 centimeters. Because in Japan, and the 10 centimeters section is most popular size for wood. If you go to Japanese houses, most of the columns, the beams, are made by 10 centimeter by 10 centimeters. Because the intimate scale of those columns create the warm atmosphere for the space. And the size of the small houses is applied to the bigger building. It is very different from normal wooden building. Normal wooden buildings, the people are using the glue lamp, that's such the dimension, but the dimension of the big glue lamp is very similar to the scale of concrete building. And instead, we try to minimize the size and then create intimacy to the big building. It is a view from the sky. And the structure, the roof is a little bit carved, raised at top, and it's a structural solution for this big cantilever. The arch is the method of arch is used for the roof, and then the top part of the roof is a little bit raised. It is not by design, it's a solution by the structural engineer, but I like the softness of this curvature. And between 1964 to 2020, that is 56 years, but my journey was not so simple. I came to New York in 1985, and I got the ACC grant. Luckily, the ACC supported my study in New York, and I met many architects, and I met many sub-developers. I tried to interview with Donald Trump, but I couldn't. And after coming back to Tokyo in 1986, Tokyo's economy was so good. It's a kind of booming era in Tokyo. And the first 4 years, I was so busy. But in 1991, the bubble economy was bursted, and then every project in Tokyo were cancelled. And I decided to travel to countryside of Japan, because I didn't know countryside of Japan at all. And and in 1990s, I traveled to small villages, a small town, and I could do some small project in the countryside of Japan. But I was very lucky because I could become friends of some good craftsmen, and I could work with them, and I learned from them. The craftsmanship in Japan, people are afraid is disappearing, but still, so we can find good craftsmen, especially in the countryside. And I want to show some good example of my experience in 1990s. My first project to show you is Hiroshige Museum. And the Hiroshige is a ukiyo-e artist, 19th century. It is his masterpiece, and his method is very unique. He didn't use perspective method. Instead, he did use superjuxtaposition method to create three-dimensional space. And this funny painting was by great artist Vincent van Gogh. And Vincent van Gogh really respected Hiroshige. And also this great architect, Frank Lloyd Wright, he respected Hiroshige very much. And he actually wrote, without Hiroshige and Tenshin Okakura, I couldn't achieve anything. So he was very much inspired by Hiroshige, and his way of making rendering was very much inspired by Hiroshige's wood block. And it's a lobby house. And again, he designed a big roof, and he designed the horizontal big roof, and that method was very much inspired by Japanese old buildings. And also the integration of green and the building, in the balcony he add the vegetation, that method was applied to the Olympic Stadium, and the similar idea, similar philosophy. And my Hiroshige Museum, so we try to create the lines and the transparency and as a void. Void that we cut in the building is to create continuity to the mountain. In Japan, the mountain was always the most important for the town and village because natural resources of the mountain and was the basis of daily life. So material and energy, because no electric company, no gas company, the only mountain people could get energy. And also the fertilizer came from the mountain. And without the mountain, they couldn't survive. And then they always built shrine at the edge of mountain, you see. But in 20th century, those shrine was totally abandoned, and the people forgotten the importance of mountain and forest. And in this small village, also shrine was abandoned, and the mountain was very bad condition. And I talked with the mayor of the town to cut the building like that, to connect mountain and town again, and then that is the reason behind the void of the building. This is the void of the building which connect the village and mountain. And this is a plan which connect the village and the shrine up. And material-wise, we did use the local material as possible as can. And the Japanese carpenters always said the best material of the building is from the mountain behind, because climate is same, humidity is same, temperature same, and the four seasons rhythm is same, and it will fit the building. And rice papers, we also worked with local craftsmen, and the stone came from the quarry of the village. And I could enjoy the collaboration with the local craftsmen. And the furniture as well. And in China, so we also tried to adapt the same method. So besides Great Wall, we designed the bamboo house. We didn't cut the topography, and the building was following the landscape, following the topography. And materials, we did use bamboo from the place. And also the system of the planning is similar to Hiroshige Museum. Super juxtaposition of layers to create depth by the screens. This is the tea house, small tea house. And in Europe, we also tried to show the craftsmanship of Japan. And in this small pavilion, we did use the special technique of the carpenters from Hida Takayama. And Hida Takayama has a long history of wooden works, and this method is called Chidori joinery, and it's a very sophisticated system. Without nail and without any metal, they can fix those joints. And so we worked with the student of my school, and they also can learn how to use wood. So our students often create a small pavilion with new material and the new and old the method and the craftsmanship. And after coming back from Milan, so we applied that system to the bigger building. So we tested the strengths of this joint system, and we applied the system to 10 meters high building. You cannot find any column and beam because these small sticks are supporting the building. The dimension of the small sticks is 2 inches by 2 inches, but the joinery of the small sticks is very rigid, and then they can support the building. And for the bigger structure, we also use wood. In this small village, Yosuhara village, it is very far from Tokyo. From the airport, we need to drive 4 hours at that time. And now it's 2 hours, but it's still very far from Tokyo. But people want to use local wood for their buildings and bridge. And our idea is to work with small factory, local factory, because this glue lamp, the 30 centimeters height, was produced by the local factory. And then by using small unit, we try to create the big bridge. And then the smallness of each unit give the intimacy to the building. And for the same village, we inspired by small tea house. We applied the same material, thatch, for the small hotel of the village. And it is also very challenging because thatch used to put on the roof, but on the facade is maybe first time in Japan. But luckily, we found a very good carpenters in the village. He's more than 70 years, and he joined this project because thatch is a disappearing the technique in Japan, disappearing material in Japan, and to find good craftsmen is almost impossible. So in the whole country, the 3 or 4 the company can work with thatch, and I'm very worrying about this technique disappear soon. And with unique client, Starbucks, we were asked to design the new type of Starbucks in the special place. The Dazai Tenmangu is one of the oldest shrine in Japan. And in front of that the shrine, they asked us to design the special Starbucks. And our proposal is to work with special carpenters and special structure system. This is not interior design. So we built this building from scratch, and also structurally, this is very unique. The former example, the ZC building is a perpendicular 90 degrees system, but it is a diagonal system, and the joinery is very complex. And the normal Starbucks, the construction schedule is 3-4 months, but this building almost 2 years, and they are very upset to hear the schedule. But after completion, this Starbucks became the most Instagrammable Starbucks in Japan, and in the center of Tokyo, Asakusa has a long history, and in Edo era, the 17th, 18th century, Asakusa was the most active street in the town. And in front of major temple of Asakusa, we designed this as a culture tourist center. The section is like that, because the requirement from the city is 40 meters high building, whereas we thought the 40 meters big tower is not fitting the landscape things, the image of the place. And so our idea is stacking 7 wooden buildings to create this intimate scale in front of the temple. And the rendering, and there's a final building. And there's a small theaters on 4th floor. And the cafe, so from cafe we can look down the temple. I think it can be the new solution for the higher building in the big city. And the China, so we designed this museum in Hangzhou. The location is on the hill. And then again, we didn't want to cut the topography. The following the landscape is very important for us. And also the create intimate scale is important for this project. That is the result. And the small, it looks like a small village. And also we did use the local roof tile, ceramic roof tile, because the local ceramic tile was handmade and beautiful. In Japan, we also do use the ceramic tile, but it's a big factory is producing the ceramic tile. It's the same color, the same dimension, the same textures, but in China, the colors are so diverse, and I like the beauty of this roughness of the material. And we applied this material for the screen to create the shadow for the space. And because of the topography of the place, the floors is not flat. It is following the topography as a same idea as the Guggenheim Museum in New York. But the Guggenheim Museum, the lamp is an artificial lamp. But as this case, it is following the topography. And in France, we also try the same method. The create the void sometimes is very helpful to connect the nature and town. So this hall is working like that, same as Hiroshige Museum. And also we preserve the old building and we add wooden building on the existing building. This is, we call it Angawa Space. Angawa Space is a in-between space between exterior and interior. In Japanese buildings, the Angawa is most important space. If you visit Katsura Villa in Kyoto, the Angawa is creating harmony between landscape and interior. And the same idea was applied in the French building. And also we did the landscape design as well for this building. The void which create the connection of the town and the nature, like that. And so our recent project in France is this station. It's a Saint-Denis Players Station, and it's close to the Saint-Denis, the soccer stadium. The district of Saint-Denis is not the best location, the district in Paris. Some terrorists are living in that the Saint-Denis area. And in my first visit, the client asked me, don't walk on the street because it's very dangerous. And no good public space. And then our proposal for the station is to have the public space on the rooftop. And also to have the green on the rooftop and the wood for interior. And at the beginning, his client is a French railway company, it's a national railway company. They didn't agree to use wood for the station. But finally, so we found the special technique to create inflammable wood and also anti-graffiti treatment, and then finally we get approval from them. And in States, the Portland Japanese Garden is my first public project. First private project is a Polish house in Connecticut, and first private and public project is this building. And again, how to create intimacy, how to create harmony is most important. And this type of planning, so we call it the goose flying planning. So goose is flying like that. And the advantage of this method is to create the open corners which is connect our exterior and interior. We have many corners, and some corners is totally openable like that. And in Dallas, so we completed this Dallas Rolex building towers, and also so we created the intimate material and the intimate scale. And for the podium of the building, we worked with the Japanese craftsmen. Their name is Anoshu. So Anoshu, the history of Anoshu is very, very long. The 16th century, when the Oda Nobunaga, the famous warrior, he tried to build the biggest castle in Japan, Azusa Castle. And he asked the craftsman group, Anoshu, to build a new type of strong castle. And that group, that family, are still working for creating castle. And recently, they said no one wants to build castle, but they are working with the renovation. But for this project, we asked them to create a new castle in Dallas. And I want to show today I don't have a good image for the podium, but their technique is very beautiful. It's amazing. And in UK, there is a recent project in UK. It's a Victoria Albert Museum in Dundee, Scotland. The inspiration came from the sea cliff. It is just up north of Scotland. And because the location of the museum is facing a river. And we thought the normal concrete box will not fit this kind of location. And instead of a concrete box, we try to create a kind of sea cliff which can create some harmony with environment. This is a detail of the wall. And how to create randomness is always very important for us. And also how to create void, which connect city and river is very important for this project. We try to invite people, we try to bring people to waterfront. So before this building was built, the big factories were occupied the waterfront area. And the city of Dundee and Scotland want to create a new park as a facing river. And my idea is also to connect river and city again. And for the interior of the museum, we try to use local wood as possible as can by the unique detail. And our ideas for this public space is to create living space for the city. Some museum was used. Most of the museum is just for the space for arts, but as we thought, the people, the community want to have living room facing a beautiful river, and our idea they like very much. And in the catalog of the museum, in the tote bag in the museum, they put the concept of the museum, a living room for the city. And the local wood with the rough configurations. And it's a very new project. It was completed 2 months ago. It's a Darling Exchange in Sydney, Australia. The image is, as I took this photo by myself, and I'm sorry, the image is not so good, but I really like the textures of that building. We did use a New Zealand radiator pine for the facade. And the city of Sydney want to have some community space. The ground floor is a kind of as a market. The movable boxes in the market, and second floor library, and the third is a kindergarten, and fourth is restaurants, and people as a community are really enjoying this soft building. And another recent project was in Turkey, the Odem Pasade Museum. It's not in Istanbul. It is the city's name is Eskişehir, and the location is named Odem Pasade. And Odem means wood, and Pasade means a bazaar. And wooden used to be the place for wooden market. And the neighbors of the building, wooden buildings in Ottoman era, and we tried to match those 2 3 stories building. And construction method, so we got a hint from the Shosoin Temple. The Shosoin Temple is very old temple from Nara, and the Shosoin Temple, the treasure of Shosoin Temple came from the west, and at that time, the 6th, 7th century, many things came from the west. The silk came through the Silk Road, and then so we tried to symbolize the connection with Turkey by using the same method of Shosoin Temple. And besides those big projects, we are really enjoying the small experimental project. It's just, we are invited by MoMA New York to create a small pavilion. So it was hinted by small polytanks. So the name of the exhibition is the home delivery, and we designed this small polytank. The polytank was used for experimental house. And the idea of this polytank house is to use the water for the material of the building. And in MoMA, we couldn't find a space to build the real house. But after coming back from MoMA, we built this experimental house. The heated waters is used for heating and cooking, and without the infrastructure, we can live only by that house. The student, again, they constructed the house, connecting by pipes, and the water is flowing in the house. The only one unit is enough to create the house. The bathtub and the bed and the sink and every element was made by one single unit. And this small project, Casa Umbrella project, was for Milano Triennale. And the small umbrella was used to build the house. Our idea is simple. If the people carrying umbrella can work together, they built the small pavilion. The initial ideas came from Buckminster Fuller. As Buckminster Fuller, he designed the Fuller Dome, but his idea is very democratic, but still the umbrella is much easier than his Fuller Dome. And the 15 students decided to build a house together, and the 5 hours afterwards, they built that. And structurally, we also got the hint from Buckminster Fuller. And the Fuller's idea is tensegrity, tension of the membrane and the compression of the steel frame that can work together to minimize the material. And Sadao-san was also working for Buckminster Fuller, yeah. And the students enjoy the construction process, and 15 students drink together after completion and stay the night in the pavilion. And our idea, if disaster happens, we should carry the umbrella. And we can build by ourselves. And the self-made house is a basic idea of Buckminster Fuller. And the Jubako is a wooden trailer house we designed. The normal trailer is metal, but we did use wood to create the warmness and merging to the environment. And the people supplied to see in the city, in the Tokyo. And also we did use for the small restaurant. And the last project today is a small wood block. That we worked with my old friend Ryuichi Sakamoto. He is the leader of NPO More Trees. And his idea is to activate the Japanese forestry. And he asked me to design the new type of wood block. And the normal wood block is very similar to masonry structure system, the brick and the stone. But that idea of this wood block is very similar to Japanese wooden building. The Japanese wooden buildings, the wood is not stacking. So weaving is the basic method. And we applied that system to Tsumiki. And also the Frank Lloyd Wright, he loves Tsumiki very much. And also he mentioned about the beauty of triangular Tsumiki. And I got hint from triangular tsumiki to create this transparent tsumiki. Thank you very much.
The Hiroshige building, what was the roof made of?
Yes, the Hiroshige as a building, we have the double roof system. The first layer is waterproofing roof by metal, and on the metal roof, we have the louvers, wooden louvers, and visually it works, and also it is for saving energy. And in Japan, so we have the similar system of lead platinum, and so we got lead platinum, the Japanese lead platinum, by that method.
Reed platinum?
Lead platinum.
And my second question is, what was the building in China used for? What was the purpose of the building?
It's a museum. It's a roof tile building.
No, the one that was like a kind of looked like castle-like. Oh, is that Hangzhou? Excuse me.
Is a Hangzhou building.
Yeah.
Yes, Hangzhou building is a museum for art university. And art university, and the contents of the museum is the crafts. And the interesting story is the curator of the museum, he studied in Japan, and he learned Minge. You know Minge? The Minge is a Japanese craftsmanship. And in Meiji era, some Japanese artists and the writer worked together to activate Japanese craftsmanship. The movement was called Minge. And that Chinese creator studied in Japan, and he wanted to bring the Japanese Minge to China. And in China, to find the crafts is not so difficult, and the collection of Chinese Minges are amazing.
Oh, yes. In the front, Michael?
I don't know whether we can stand without a microphone.
Yes.
Okay,
But very admirable, these wooden facades and wooden elements. How do you make sure that they're not being polluted in a city environment? How do you make sure that this wonderful wooden appeal stays as it is, and that the wood doesn't get gray and influenced by the elements?
Yes, the recently we have very advanced treatment method, but still by the pollution is getting grayer. And in case of National Stadium, and so we add the white pigment as from the beginning. And as a little bit as whitish, grayish from the beginning of the project. And if some part is getting grayer, totally it looks very natural. And then we add white pigment from the beginning of the project.
On the competition for the Olympic Stadium, after all that had happened, that the Japanese public did such an outcry for the project, were architects participating giving specific guidelines regarding materials, size, structure, or were they left at their own creativity?
Guidance? Yeah, the story of the competition was very complicated. The first winner is, as you know, Zaha Hadid, one of the first competition, and because of the budget, estimation was triple as of initial budget, and also some Japanese architect is Professor Maki, he started as a protest against the building, and finally Japanese government decided to cancel that. And then the second competition, the cost was a very critical issue for the project. And then as a requirement of the competition is design-build competition. And we should submit with a construction company. In that case, we worked with Taisei Corporation, and Taisei Corporation invited me to work together, and the precise cost and the precise estimation and the design. And the requirement is as kind of Japanese taste is needed. And then our answer is to use wood. For sustainability, to use wood is very helpful, and also to use local wood is very good for Japanese forestry, and Japaneseness is not easy theme for us. But some people think it is Japanese building. But it's not typical Japanese style. Style-wise, it's very neutral, I think. But material-wise, we got hint from Japanese old buildings. And that's the story about that.
Maybe I can follow up on that question. We have a couple questions that we wanted to ask you, Kuma-san. So about cultural exchange, one of the outcomes that ACC always notices with our grantees is that cultural exchange enables you to travel to a country and learn about the other. But actually what also happens many times, an outcome is you actually learn a lot about yourself and where you come from and the sort of background that you have. Looking back on your ACC grant experience and coming to the United States and learning about American culture and American architects, and then returning to Japan, did you discover, can you share with us any part of you that was sort of Japanese, or any element of you that you felt, oh, this is my Japaneseness coming out?
Yeah, so the 98, I was here 1985 to 1986, and I was attending Columbia as visiting scholar, and luckily I got to know Kenneth Frampton. Kenneth Frampton was very much interested in the tectonics of architecture, so he was interested in how to make architecture. And at 1985-86, this is a kind of postmodernism era, and the postmodernism skyscrapers are building in the city. But Kenneth's idea was a little bit different. And I was very inspired by his idea. Yeah, but after coming back to Japan, I didn't use wood for the building because that time, most of client didn't want to use wood for the building. The people thought wood is a material only for small house. But luckily, 1990s, the boom stopped, and I traveled a lot to countryside, and I learned the method of wood slowly. But in New York, I have good friends, I have good teachers, but I still remember I bought 2 tatami mat, tatami mat, in the apartments in New York, because I want to show tea ceremony to my American friends, and I myself learned tea ceremony at that time, but tea ceremony is a very complicated. And I ran tea ceremony, and I served tea to my American friends. And if I didn't come to New York, I couldn't learn tea ceremony. And New York gave me the chance to learn tea ceremony. But a tea ceremony, to have tea ceremony together with American friends is very interesting experience, because I should teach them the meaning of that, the method. Why we should use this bowl like that, and why we should use napkin for that. And then to explain tea ceremony is a kind of learning system for myself. And then in New York, I learned Japanese culture.
That's a fantastic answer. Thank you. While you were in New York, you once said that in a class at Columbia, your professor had mentioned, or had quoted actually, Abraham Lincoln, and said, "I like to see a man proud of the place in which he lives. I like to see a man live so that his place will be proud of him." And you had mentioned before that this was a very sort of influential statement for you. And can you talk about, you're very humble, but can you talk about a project or an experience that you're particularly proud of? There's so many to choose from, but.
Yes, as one of my professor at Columbia University, as Robert Stern, he is still my friends, and at that time he was on the TV as a series as a Pride of Place, and starting from the Abraham Lincoln's word. I love that as a sentence very much, and in Japan as Yasuhara village, I showed the tour of Yasuhara, Odem bridge, and the thatch house that was in Yasuhara. And I have been working with them. Started 1991, and then we designed 6 buildings for them. And because they love our design very much, and also I respect them very much. And they are very proud of their village. It is a very small village and very far from the city. And the nickname of the village is the Tibet in Japan, because it's in south, but it snows. It's from November it snows. It's south, but then snows November. It's very unusual because of the special climate. But they are very proud because the historic story is Sakamoto Ryoma. You know, he is one of the key persons of the Meiji Reformation. The Sakamoto Ryoma stayed in Yasuhara village some days. And the Yasuhara people supported Sakamoto Ryoma because they were impressed by the philosophy of Sakamoto Ryoma, and they're still very proud of supporting Sakamoto Ryoma. And to work with that kind of people, they are very proud of their cultures, and they are also very proud of their beautiful landscape. It's very exciting, and I always often remember the word pride place.
That's lovely, thank you. The Asian Cultural Council gives grants to support cultural exchange between the United States and 25 other countries in Asia. Our geographic purview sort of stretches from Afghanistan through Japan down to Indonesia. If you were able to, I know your schedule is completely full, but if you were able to choose a country in which you might have a burning desire to do a project, is there any particular geography or country that you would like to do a project in that you haven't before, or go back to and have another project?
Yeah, as always, as a new location, the new place gives me the stimulation, give me a new idea. And if I was invited from the new site, a new place, I ignore business because I'm very curious to the place. For example, the Turkish project. The Turkish project is my first Turkish project, and also I was invited from the small city, not Istanbul, and it's very exciting for us, and also I learned the history of the place, and in Meiji era, the famous professors of architecture history, the Chuta Ito visited that town, and and then I was so surprised. Why Japanese professor visited that small town in Meiji era? And then I really like to work with that kind of special history.
Why did he visit that?
Because he did a big tour starting from China to west. Mm-hmm. And he was very much interested in the history of Horyuji Temple.
I see.
You know Horyuji Temple, and his theory is Horyuji Temple idea came from Greece. Is the shape of the column of Horyuji Temple is entasis.
I see.
You know, entasis is the curvatures of the. Is very similar to Greek, the temple, and Chuta Ito thought maybe the Greece and Japan has some connection, and he planned to go to Greece to check the history of the temples.
Fascinating. Cultural exchange all the way back then. Do we have another question from the audience? Yes.
Hi, thank you so much for this lecture. I was wondering if you could talk about the relationship between sustainable design and local design, and particularly in contexts like the Turkey project where you are less familiar. How do you approach the local design that seems inherent in most of your projects?
Yeah, the sustainability is always the most important theme for us, and especially I'm very much interested in the material. So in 20th century, the people ignored material totally, because people thought the concrete and the steel are the only option for the building, and the construction company chose the cheapest material from anywhere. But the cheapest material means we need to transport the material from the place too far. It's not sustainable at all. And then, before 19th century, in Japan, people did use the wood from the mountain behind. The no transportations, and it's just reduce the carbon oxidized, and also the people did use the wood for a long time. It is also helps a lot to avoid the global warming. But now the Japanese wood are not popular in Japan because it's expensive. The Canadian wood, the Russian wood are cheaper than Japanese wood, and still the people are using the wood from far away, and the sustainability, ignorant sustainability totally. And then, so from where and from what the process is very important for sustainability.
Thank you so much. I think one last question we had. I'm sorry, was there a question? I missed. Oh, sorry. Yes, go ahead.
So this is also a question about sustainability. The decision to build a new stadium for the Olympics rather than reuse, refurbish, or expand the old Kenzo Tange stadium was somehow controversial. And given that he's somehow responsible for you becoming an architect and that he was so inspiring for you, of course, you jumped on the project when it was already too late to think about reusing the old one. But do you have like any qualms or any second thoughts about whether it was the right decision to build a new one rather than reuse the old one?
Reuse the old one?
Yeah, Kenzo Tanges.
Yeah, as the old stadium was built in 1958, before the first Olympic, and then the structurally the old concrete structures has damaged a lot, and then to reuse and to refurbish was impossible for that period. Yeah. I loved that old building very much because there was a sports gym in the old stadium. I often used that sports gym, and the tennis club adjacent to stadium. I was a member of tennis club. I played a lot in that area, and the Gaian Forest. That forest is one of the most important park in Tokyo. And I love area, and then I want to keep the beauty of this environment.
Wonderful. Thank you. I think we have a couple more questions, but timing-wise, I think we actually have come to the end of our program. But this being a dialogue, or the East-West dialogues, we would love to invite you upstairs for a reception to continue a conversation with Kuma-san, and also to talk about, I think ACC's purpose for the East-West dialogue is to continue critical thinking and to continue connection. And so we hope that you can join us upstairs and continue that dialogue and continue connecting with other fellow audience members. I want to thank Kamiya-san once again for this wonderful opportunity, and Kuma-san, of course, for sharing so much with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.